Hey, good afternoon, everyone. TrackMan44 here. Hey, you know I'm a sucker for a bargain, and sometimes, things come my way, I don't intend on, but end up with something, it's actually pretty good. I had a cousin of mine call me the other day and said, hey, I'm going to buy a new table saw. Do you want to have my old saw? And I said, sure, heck yeah, man. I remembered it was a Craftsman, didn't remember anything about it. But it's a Craftsman 10-inch table saw, but it's got an aftermarket, a Lina rip, aftermarket rip fence on it. And the rip fence is broken. See how it's hanging down over here? I haven't taken it apart yet to see what's wrong with it. That's the only thing wrong with it. It's real good. It's very similar to the Biesemeyer, just not, I don't think, the quality of the Biesemeyer rip fence. But still, that was a good deal. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story today, believe it or not, is there's always a handful of other things that he wants to get rid of too at the same time. But he asked me if I had any need for some old fuses. Well, I've still got several fuse boxes in and around the property, and so I'm always looking for screw-in fuses and everything. Throw them on the shelf. Eventually, I use them. I've got a 30-amp tube pole that's got two 30-amp fusetrons in it right now, supplying my air compressor in the other building. But at any rate, he gave me a box of fuses. Let's look at these things here. And one thing I thought of is there might be just one or two young fellas that don't even know what fuses are or how fuses operated or worked or anything. So this is kind of fun. I just thought, what the heck, man? I'm getting ready to throw them on the shelf. May as well show y'all. Fuses, like everything else, is an evolution. There's an evolution of products. And way back in the day, I don't know what was before these, but originally you had fuses that were either glass fronted, where you'd actually look down inside and you could read the number, the amp rating of the fuses down inside the center, and you could see the little filament go across there for you younger guys, and you would see a little black spot whenever the filament would burn out. If you couldn't read the number up there, then it also had the numbers usually stamped into the back of them. Now these are the old things all the old timers talked about. Well, you don't want to go put a penny behind your fuse, but that's what these were right here. Now I think even prior to the glass ones, I think they had these little Formica, I think that's a Formica front, it's not glass, and then a pressed aluminum case on it, and also you could see the size of the fuse stamped in the perimeter of that case and also on the bottom too. And those are still pretty much interchangeable, no problem at all, and these happen to be both 15-amp fuses. They morphed into this more modern fuse that was a little more substantially built. If not cheaper, it was still a little better built. Of course, it's hard to beat them glass fuses. They were just pretty bulletproof, but they sure did blow. Those are just a straight single element fuse that blew anytime you got beyond the capacity, the ampacity of the actual fuse. These were a little bit better because they had a mica window and a little better area that you could actually look inside. I can't get close enough to see, but for you young guys, it actually had a fuse element inside there, and you could see the little spot would just turn black as it blew apart. Then they moved from that and they went to what's called a time delay fuse, and typically these were a TL fuse. I think that stood for time delay. They also called them fusetron also. But at any rate, this is a time delay 30-amp fuse, and what that does, that takes a little bit of an inrush of a higher amperage rating than the 30-amp for just that short period of time, and then once the load comes back down to normal, it goes ahead and protects the circuit normally. But it's to protect that inrush of a motor starting and things like that. But still, it's a 30-amp time delay. And again, the window, you can see in there and see it. This is just a straight fuse. Typically, your time delay fuses always had a green window. They had different color depending on the amperage of the fuse. So, all you had to do is have a flashlight in the dark, just shine it in there and see what color is blown, if that's the problem, and then go to your fuse box and get the right color and screw it in there and you're good to go. Check these guys out here. This here is really an old set of bus fusetrons. It says 4 T25s and it says 40 cents a box or 10 cents each. Now that's a bargain, ain't it? Brand spanking new 25 amp T25 fusetron. So this is a time delay fuse for 40 cents. That's a bargain every day of the week and twice on Sundays, ain't it? Then this here is probably a little bit newer, but this is a dual element too. But these are 20 cents each. So apparently the guys here wanted to make a killing. Well, it says time delay on the outside, but it's a mixed box because here's a 10-amp standard fuse, and it's got a time delay 10-amp fuse, and then two more 10s I don't want to take out of the box. See what I was telling you about the different colors? Here's orange colors or red colors, I guess. 20-amp, yeah, I remember now. Orange color for the TL or the Fusetron 20-amp time delay fuses. Then they come up with here's a brand new box of them here. Package of 4 TL20s. These are all going to be fusetrons. Well, they're not either. They got to, as with all the old guys, you never keep the same things in the box. You just kind of mix stuff around, whatever fits, just throw it in there and be done with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, this got a mixture of boxes, 20 and 25 amps. So they didn't stay real consistent with that box either. Then they came up with another style called Fuse Stat. It's a time delay fuse, but it has an entirely different base. Remember how the old base was this standard big fat thread, like bigger than your thumb like this? Well, whenever you use the Fuse Stats, you'd have to have an adapter that would screw into that base and accept this much smaller ceramic threaded fuse. Just an aggravation. And if you ever had to get that adapter out of the fuse box with the box hot because you no longer had Fuse Stats, but then you got the standard fuse again, sometimes it could get just a little bit hairy getting that out of there without getting tickled, you know what I mean? I've been tickled a time or two. But anyway, here's a whole box of Fuse Stats, all 20 amp. Then you had your cartridge fuses. You had cartridge fuses in all amperage. You had 10s, 15s, 20s, 25s, 30, 35, 40, 60s and all that stuff. Well, 45s and 50s and 60s. This here's an NON, which is just a straight blow fuse. Gets near there, pop, it blows, and it's gone, you know what I mean? There's no time delay, no anything. Just a standard cheap fuse rated at 35 amps. Now these stayed the same size from 35 all the way to 60. Under 35, they went to a smaller fuse body, and I don't remember seeing them above 60s because your 100 amp mains always had 60 amp fuses in them. I don't know why, but that's just the way it was. There's an NON 35, here's an NON 50, and then here's NON 60s right here. But then here's something that might even be a couple of older guys that hadn't had any experience in. I've been doing HVAC for way into the 40-year mark, or beyond the 40-year mark, and we used to have replaceable element fuses. And those replaceable element fuses were just like this. It was a REN, which is a replaceable element fuse. But these things, you unscrew them right here. And they actually have a screwdriver slot because sometimes they might get a little sticky, if they're old. But you just go ahead and unscrew them just like this right here. And what I did, I went ahead and took the caps off of this other one right here. But you go ahead and remove the caps off the end of these things right here. And then we had a wide variety of the actual replaceable elements right here on the inside. So here's your typical replaceable element right here. And they were nice and flat. You would stick it into the slot of the washer that goes underneath the cap on one end. Once you stick it in the slot, you bend it over at a 90-degree angle like this right here and take it and insert it. You see this end came off and there's a square. This end the slot stayed in the end of it. So you just take this guy right here, slide it right in. And once it came out the other end, you just bent it over just like this right here. Now it's nice and secure. At least it's inside there making contact. Screw your caps back on. Screw the other cap back on and snug them down because you want that to make good contact, good secure contact. So this is all that's required, just a nice snug. And there you have another brand spanking new 60 amp fuse. Now we had those for this size here. We would have the fusible links for all the fuses that are this physical size, and all we'd have to do is just pop the ends off, replace the burnt element or the burnt filament, and put it right back into service. It's quick and simple. So how many of you young guys out there, and if there's an old guy that's not seen them, let me know that too. But how many of you guys are not aware that there was replaceable element fuses? Man, I tell you, doing HVAC, starting out way back in the in the mid 70s. Man, I replaced dozens and dozens of those doggone filaments. It was just what we did. You carried those. I can't remember. They come in a little bag, a little brown sack. There might have been 5 or 10 of those in the individual envelope, so to speak. And we just carried all the different sizes in the service truck. Pop them out. Boom. We're done. Now going back just a little bit to these NON style fuses. These are the one-time quick blow fuses. They had another one that was just exactly the same physical dimension of this, and it was a FRN. That was the Fustron, or the time delay fuse, similar to the screw-in fuses. It would also be it would also accept just a little bit of an inrush current for like motor starting and everything, on the 60 amp, 35, 45, 50, and 60 amp circuits, just like the screw-in fuses on the other style of fuses. But those were called FRN, or Fustron fuses. Well, this is just a little video about nothing. I was getting ready to throw these things on the shelf, and I thought, well, what the heck, there might be 1 or 2 young fellas watching that has grandpa or grandma's old farmhouse that's got the old fuse boxes and everything in it, and need to know just a little bit more about what it is they're looking at. Not that this really helped anybody or anything, but it's just another little walk down memory lane for some of us guys. I've changed thousands of them, guarantee you, over the course of the years. But now it's just simple as can be with circuit breakers and stuff. You know what? I think we have beat this one to death. So I got a lot more to talk about, but this ain't the time to do it. And this is TrackMan 44. I'm out of here, guys.